Hi, my name is Daudi Mugabi and this is Business Mike episode 16. My guest today is Philip Kalibwani. He is the co-founder and business development manager of the Pearl Guide in Uganda. In this episode, we discuss Philip's business journey, the power of collaboration, as well as the best places to visit in Uganda. All this and more next on Business Mike. Thank you so much, Philip, for taking the time to do this interview. Could you briefly tell us who you are and what you do?
My name is Philip Kalibwani, and I am the Business Development Manager at the Pearl Guide Uganda.
What exactly does Pearl Guide Uganda do?
The Pearl Guide is a promotional agency for anything fantastic coming out of Uganda. So we promote the greatest events, we promote travel to Uganda, and we don't like to call it travel in the conventional way that travel is. We prefer to call it promoting experiences. Yeah. Because I think, fortunately, with the work we do, we've been fortunate to move around Uganda and understand that there's a lot about Uganda that you will never find anywhere else in the world. I mean, last year we were filming this Discover Uganda TV show. Yes. And there's a place where when you wake up in the morning, you can actually touch the clouds.
Really?
Yeah. So I mean, it's not. If we have the landscape to let people know about those things, we're going to do as much as we can to share all those experiences. Even with a project like Kampala Restaurant Week, which we just finished. Yeah. It's still in line with the same thing. Kampala has, some of the most fantastic restaurant experiences you might ever sample anywhere, but you can't experience that if you do not know these restaurants to start with. So we work with the restaurants and we make a creative project like Restaurant Week so that people get exposed to what quality dining is and good experiences all around. Okay. So that's what we do. We just promote all great experiences coming out of Uganda.
I've noticed with your work, when I look at Discover Uganda and maybe Kampala Restaurant Week, there's many parties that you need to work with. For instance, in Kampala Restaurant Week, you need to try and create a network with the restaurants and tie them all in together. There's that sort of logistical bit of it. What does it take to create something in terms of the planning and the execution to make it work out in that everything is coordinated and well synced, especially for something as big as Kampala Restaurant Week?
I think the first thing it takes is a team, because I think for many great projects, they're all a consequence of collaboration, whether on a micro level, which means the team that is putting the project together, or on a macro level, which means the number of restaurants that you're going to work with, the sponsors, managing the sponsors' relationships with the restaurants and with yourselves. So I think something like Restaurant Week is initially possible because of the team that was behind Restaurant Week. Because at the start of a project, it's going to need business structuring at the start. In terms of, for a company like us, what is the revenue plan behind Restaurant Week? Why must there be a revenue plan? Because without a revenue plan, we can't do Restaurant Week next week. We're not a charity. There are costs involved. There's marketing. The business behind a project like that needs to be developed first. And then along the way, someone is going to have to develop a brand plan for Restaurant Week. Then someone develops the marketing plan. Then you have someone who implements that, either through social media, monitoring other media outlets, finding the best deal for radio. Then you have salespeople that are going to go out into the restaurants and manage that relationship with the restaurants, firstly by getting them signed up into Restaurant Week and having them buy into the concept. And after they buy into the concept, that relationship needs servicing, to ensure that versus that client's expectation, we are delivering versus that expectation, because you realize that 40 restaurants may sign up for for Restaurant Week, but they all have different expectations.
Right, yeah.
The general factor is that they all expect a surge in their sales, but one restaurant might be a bit more qualitative than quantitative. They're interested in increasing sales, but in a particular type of target grouping. Another restaurant is expecting some development in their social media and online following because of Restaurant Week. So it's essential that the sales team is managing those relationships, and because of that management, we are able to deliver to each restaurant what we promised or what they expect. So for projects like this, it all starts with the team.
And that brings me to another question, which is, for you to execute projects like that, like Discover Uganda, there's a lot of expertise that's involved. For instance, with Discover Uganda, you need people that are good with film, and you need a good host, and so many things like that. So what does it take to pull in such a team in terms of identifying the required talent, and then making sure that they're satisfied with what you have to offer, and also ensuring that you are satisfied with the revenue at the end of the day? So what's the process? For instance, some of the projects you come up with, most of them haven't been done before. So in terms of putting together a team, you don't have a template to look at. So what goes on behind the scenes to put something like, let's use Discover Uganda as an example. From the initiation on paper to the execution, what happens behind the scenes?
I think one of the intangible challenges behind such projects, or I would say behind leadership in general, is I don't think there's a template to it, but as a leader or someone who's trying to do great things, you must have the craft to get people to buy into your vision, right?
Right.
So case scenario being Discover Uganda, we were fortunate also on that project to work with some of the most creative people that I personally have ever worked with in their different capacities. One being the people that filmed the show. It's a company called Media 256. They delivered a phenomenal picture, right? That wasn't enough. The second team was, they're called Quad A Records. They did the scoring for Discover Uganda.
Oh, right, yes.
So every element of sound in Discover Uganda was created from scratch, right before our eyes. And it's also on an internationally competitive level. That wasn't enough. Then we met a team called Admire Motion Pictures, and they created the graphic suit for Discover Uganda, which is also on a really, really highest possible grade, which also isn't enough. We landed on the hosts who were also, very, very key to how this project developed, because when you're doing a project like this and it's pursuing identity, we didn't really want to work with faces that are household. We wanted to develop a new identity around this whole Discover Uganda thing. So one of the first people we landed on is a lady called Kemiondo Coutinho. I think she's actually probably more talented off screen than she is on screen.
How so?
Because she was also doing script writing for the show, right?
She was writing for Discover Uganda? Yeah. Wow.
Which wasn't initially in the plan, because I didn't know her like that. But when we started to work together, it's something that she brought up that she could do. And we let her do it. We let her lend some creativity to the episodes that we're going to film, and some of the things she would come up with were, surprising like that.
Can you give us an example?
One episode was, I actually don't think the example I'm going to use, we used that footage, but I remember we were filming at Rainforest Lodge. Yes. It's a very compact lodge, and we're trying to figure out how are we going to make an exciting episode out of this thing. So one of the ideas she scripted was, on the way to the lodge, as naturally as possible, film Mosha haggling with these Namawojolo people trying to get a meal, right? Yeah. We didn't use it in that episode, but it eventually got used in our pilot episode. Yes. Right? Yes. That was one of her ideas, and also what one other one we didn't use was also in that episode was there was a segment where, just for the fun of that episode, she suggested that as you climb up to Rainforest Lodge, Moshe, because it's a bit of a steep climb, yeah? So just to add to the fun of it, Moshe is also a very physical guy. So she suggested that on that climb up, Moshe races the van, which we actually filmed. Moshe beat the van.
Really?
Yeah, but I think we ran out of time. We actually didn't use that. So there are a number of little creative things, like she could paint a good picture in her head,
Yeah.
right? So, which was fantastic. I mean,
What's the most beautiful place you've seen in Uganda? Something or a place you'd recommend anyone to go to?
can I do 3 notes?
Oh yeah, okay, fine.
One is okay. I'm going to go for 5.
Okay.
One is Wild Waters Lodge, which was the season premiere for our Discover Uganda season 1.
Is that the one with the gym with the best view?
No, that would be my number 2, which is Chobe, which has that gym overlooking the Nile, a 3-tier pool. They're all different. For example, Wild Waters, these guys built a little lodge. They didn't break down anything to build the lodge. They found little pockets of space and they utilized that space to establish something. So you might even find a huge log of tree in your room. So they built around that ecosystem to create an experience. So to go to bed and wake up with the Nile rushing under you, that's something to think about. Chobe as well, that's a different experience, mostly because it's a 5-star experience taken into the middle of the bush, right? So if you just want to go away and get pampered without having mosquitoes up your ass, that's one experience. The other one would be a place called Chambura. Someone more artistic would appreciate this. Chambura Gorge Lodge was designed with the concept of upcycling, right? So it's not your traditional brick and mortar. Even in the design, they utilize, remember those tin cases that we used to have in secondary school where you park your grub?
Yeah.
They utilize such things to make, tables. So it's these old blue band cans, they utilize them to make, lampshades and things like that. So it's interesting, and it also has this, there's a room that has this outdoor shower, which is one of the most sexual experiences you can ever go through. So I would give them that. The other one would be maybe Equator Snow, which is that place I was mentioning earlier where you can actually touch a cloud.
Wow.
When you wake up. You can see the clouds move around you. For the sake of not making a number 5 that is a bit vague, I will stop there.
Okay.
I think those are fantastic.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, just wanted to find out, how did you come up with this concept of the Pearl Guide? You mentioned your goal basically is to showcase a side of Uganda that most people would take for granted or people don't know about, both local and international.
Yeah.
Well, there's 2 questions here. Number 1 is, why did you pick that kind of business? And number 2 is, who is your target market? Is it the locals or is it people outside Uganda?
Those answers have kept evolving. Right? In regards to why did we pick this business? We didn't even pick this business to start with. I'll be very honest with you. Yeah. When we started the Pearl Guide, we were just a bunch of kids trying to do business. We started in 2008. And naturally, for 2 years, we're still trying to figure out what exactly is unique. I think it was about 2010 that we started to identify these unique experiences that no one else was selling through any outlet. Even our target market has evolved. Naturally, when we started this out, and even when we were picking this brand of content, we were really vastly targeting the traveler, who we still do now target, the tourist. But we realized plenty of these experiences, like one of those I first shared with you. Man, our very own Ugandans have never felt some of these things, huh?
True.
So we get the biggest bang, the biggest response when we share, let me say, some amazing photography of a pineapple bay somewhere from Ugandans. Everyone's like, wow, is this in Uganda? for the well-traveled person, he's probably seen competitive experiences in Cape Town, in Mombasa, but for the vast majority of Ugandans, they're often astonished to see that that Uganda has some of these experiences that could easily compete with Mombasa, Cape Town, Dubai. We've found that we've had to offer Ugandans a bit more attention than we did 5 years ago, and it has yielded us great results. So yeah, that's basically the journey with the person we target and the personality of the Pearl Guide that it is now.
Now, as a business owner, obviously you've had your ups and downs. What would you say is your best moment at the Pearl Guide? The happiest time you've ever had?
Funnily, that happiest time always evolves as well. Fortunately or unfortunately. Because, I mean, just the other day, closing, I think fortunately also you were there, closing Restaurant Week the way we did was a phenomenal achievement. Not just closing Restaurant Week, but delivering Restaurant Week to Kampala the way we did it, you know. When I was speaking on that day, I gave some comparative statistics. For example, on Instagram, we have currently about 800 photos shared from Kampala Restaurant Week. Nairobi, in its 3 editions, has about 250 photos shared. Wow. And yet it's supposed to be a more developed market, right? So, not that Nairobi did anything wrong, right? I think we did a lot right. So, it was really phenomenal to achieve something like that. Even the day we delivered Discover Uganda, even the day we did the photo market, even the evolutions we've made with our magazine. It has become a larger format of magazine, and reaching that mental state where we decided that for people to appreciate better what we're doing now, we need to get more visual, we need to get larger. Even reaching that point and that anxiety of, are people going to like it, are people going to love it? And then finally delivering it and people going nuts about it was fantastic. So we've had a few milestones, all of which I can't say. It's like having children and you say you love
you love one more than the other.
They've all been fantastic, and there's still more coming.
Well, those are the upsides. You've also had some downsides, basically some mistakes you've made. Now, people that listen into this show are business savvy, and perhaps they want to learn something from some of the guests I have. So what would you say are some of the mistakes you've made in the past that perhaps listeners can learn from and avoid in their own businesses?
Here's the other strange thing. I'm a very opinionated person about mistakes. I don't like to call them mistakes because for some reason, when you make mistakes, it's one of the biggest blessings you can have in your life, to make a mistake. So, I mean, being 20 years old and you're starting a business, one of the biggest mistakes you can make is to think that you know it all, because you're starting a business, and at that point in time you are socially head and shoulders above your peers. They're all looking up to you because you're starting a business. At any one point in time, it is essential to never forget that you know nothing, you know, in the business game, because every world that you delve into, there are rules that govern that world. You know, there are systems that govern that world. There are behaviors that govern that world, and for you to just waltz into it and think that you know is one of the biggest mistakes that I made. And so in that regard, I think the flip side of what I would do 5 years back was to meet more people about business. Like any situation that has its upsides and that has its downsides, you will find people that have been burnt by business. So they are in business, but they will advise you to wait, to do something else. They won't advise you to go all guns blazing like we did. And then you'll find someone, maybe, I think if anyone asks me, I would advise anyone to go all guns blazing, all in or nothing. So to listen to people, there's an interesting science behind it. Someone who has experience and has done business always has something to offer. You just need to listen close enough. There's no compromise. there's no substitute for experience. Someone who has gone through the system always has something to offer. So the more you listen, the more you save yourself some challenges. The other thing, if I had thought through better 5 years ago, we probably would be at a whole different level, is to collaborate, right? I'll give you also a case scenario. I think this came mostly to my forefront when we were developing our mobile app, right? The Pearl Guide mobile app. I got to work with a number of Ugandan developers who are all very, very supremely talented. You know, they can develop great mobile apps. But why do they have the world's most mediocre mobile apps, right? So I got very heartened with that scenario, and I kept observing. So what that means is, great developer X does not collaborate with me, you know? He operates in isolation of the world and thinks he's going to create a product on his own. Yet, ideally, being a great developer doesn't guarantee that you are the best salesperson. You know, doesn't guarantee that you are best equipped to develop a business model around your lines of code. So it's essential for that developer guy to collaborate with the restaurant owner, to collaborate with me, to collaborate with you, so that we're all picking off our powers to create. Because, you know, for example, this is not exactly Silicon Valley. You're not going to do a prototype and someone is going to rush with $1 million.
Yeah.
So our alternative to someone buying you out for $1 million is to collaborate with people at different stages, and they all offer expertise into your one project. Because it's essential. I mean, that's been one of my earlier mistakes, and at the same time, one of our biggest strongholds now. It's essential to not work in isolation, because as individuals, I mean, we're all superheroes, but, you know, Batman can't fly, you know? So we all have limitations. We all have limitations. So the sooner we partner with people, the sooner we collaborate, the sooner we look outside our own boxes, the more impact we're going to have generally.
Do you have any business role models generally?
My business role models are so strange, man. I don't even know if it's anything that you expect. One of my business role models is Puff Daddy. Oh, sorry, what's the name?
Sean Combs.
Sean Combs, P. Diddy. Why Sean Combs is... you see, much of what we do here at the Pearl Guide is we try to grow vertically. We try to build off our last experience to make an even better project. For example, something like Restaurant Week, it didn't happen in isolation. It's a build-off of our existing promotional relationships with the restaurants. And then we identify that the restaurant's problem has changed. They want to do more quantifiable advertising. So we build and do something like Restaurant Week. And one of the things that I used to admire most about Puff Daddy, so I was trying to get the name again.
Sean Combs.
Yeah, was much as it might look like he does vastly independent products, he feeds off existing momentum, right? For example, to release a clothing line, Sean John, right? It vastly benefited from having successful artists who are on TV, right? So because these artists are on TV, if your brand is the one dressing these successful artists, it's easily going to become a phenomenal social icon, right? So it all builds off each other, you know. You get these successful artists, they're on TV, you dress them, your clothing line succeeds, and then you know, collectively everyone succeeds when you build an ecosystem like that. So one of the things I've picked off is building an ecosystem of activity that is interdependent. But also, the others I wouldn't call them role models, but they inspire me vastly. I'm vastly inspired by people who are in and around my, I wouldn't want to call it age, but in and around my mindset, and they are doing phenomenal things at that point in their lives. I think I was just talking to you about these guys from Ethiopia, Enzi, who are doing footwear on the quality of Nike and Adidas within a given set of constraints. You know, Ethiopia is not so economically superior to Kampala, and they're doing great things. I mean, even someone like this guy over here, Play, he doesn't have, you know, Timbaland studio, for example, but like the sounds I played for you, they are they are representative of someone who is refusing to do mediocre music. Then there's those ladies, Bukisi Rooks, who we partnered with for Restaurant Week. We felt that much as they were young as a company, I believe in the aesthetic that they're putting out. And if I believe in it, I felt a lot of Kampala could believe in it as well. So to push it out through our existing platforms and to support them while also getting benefit during Restaurant Week was really inspiring for me. So there are a number of individuals like that. I think I have a list of like-minded people in the creative class who really inspire me. And most importantly, they just remind me that while they inspire me, I'm inspiring them as well. Right. So it's essential that I'm not dropping the ball as much as I'm picking a lot from them. They're feeding off from me as well. So that kind of keeps me
on top of your game.
Yeah, it keeps me on top of my game.
Final question. If the tables were turned and you were the host of this interview and I was your guest, what's the one question you'd ask me?
I would ask you why it took so long to do this.
It comes back to what you've just said in your final closing statements, which is sometimes you need that inspiration, that extra push from someone that is supposed to be at your level, but for one reason or another, they're not. They're miles ahead. And it's tapping into why that is. Why is it that people that seemingly have nothing or should be behind or at our level are ahead of us? Now, with regards to this podcast, I actually mentioned this in my interview with Nunu from Bold Kampala. From a very young age, these were three girls who just started a business that 3 years later has changed the fashion perception in our country. For instance, now wearing something local isn't frowned upon. You can wear it proudly. It's a thing now. Bukisi Rooks has come up as well. They've got African fabric shoes. And so I noticed how just an idea from a few people created this whole culture where local stylists and local fashion designers are all of a sudden proud to put out their work. And not just them, there's many other people from other countries as well. There's a gentleman called John Lee Dumas who does podcasting. He's a bit older than me. He's 30, I think 35 now. But this is a guy who makes $400,000 per month of podcasting. And he's extremely generous. When I wrote an email to him, a few months ago saying, hey, I'm starting my podcast, he was like, yeah, best of luck. If you need anything, get in touch with me, blah, blah, blah. So when you see someone at that level responding to your email personally because of an idea that you have, all of a sudden you think to yourself, you know what, I think it's time. Yeah. Now, as to why I've done it late, I don't know. I guess all these things fell in place at a particular time, but it's definitely something that I hope will highlight and showcase talents and individuals who can inspire others that aren't necessarily on the CNNs and the BBCs of this world.
I agree with you, and I wish you all the best with this podcast, and I'm really glad to be a part of it, mostly because I feel generally, if this keeps going consistently, I feel this is going to inspire many people in Kampala. We often look for idols, people to inspire, but to find that just next door to you, there's someone with much less than you, and they're doing phenomenally much more. It's inspiring. It's going to get many of us Kampala people to rise up and start to break the box. Huh? Yeah. So I think this podcast is going to do things.
Finally, how can people get in touch with you or Pearl Guide? How can they find out more about you?
Someone can follow me on Twitter at Kalibwani, and someone can follow the Pearl Guide on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, with the handle at the Pearl Guide UG. Our website is thepearlguide.co.ug. Our email is info@thepearlguide.co.ug, and on the website all other contacts are there. Our office is at Chintu Road at a building called The Orchard near Imperial Royal Hotel. Would be happy to receive your calls and your emails.
That's great. Thanks a lot, Philip. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate this.
Thank you as well. I appreciate being a part of this.
Thanks a lot for your time, Philip.
Cheers, man.
Cheers. Thank you so much for listening to Business Mike today. And if you'd like to listen to more episodes just like this one, simply go to businessmike.com. For all the links and resources mentioned in this particular episode, simply type the name Philip into the search bar to access his show notes page. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, take care.